Good evening and welcome to the Sports Hall in Istanbul, our host setting for these World Championships. And already on stage, the junior world record holder in the snatch for Greece, Victor Petru. A poor lift, a no lift at 152.5 kilos, the weight which he lifted in last year's World Championships when he actually set the new junior world record. Well, alongside me, once again, David Morgan, Commonwealth gold medalist, European community champion. Apologies for that breakup of pictures at the beginning of our evening, but please stay with us for this, the 76 kilo category. 167 pounds or almost 12 stone, whichever you prefer to measure your weight by. And a much better first lift by the Armenian, Ojan Bastagian. Lifts 152.5 kilos to get the competition underway. Well, there's some pretty useful lifters in this field tonight. Pablo Lara, Olympic silver medalist from Cuba, a world champion. That's Alti Orazdurdiev. And this man, who's a late entry for Bulgaria, Rumen Stoyanov, coming in at 152.5 kilos. Good first lift, David.
Yes, very solid opener. If we just watch in slow motion, very good line on the bar. Hits the bottom position with the weight in a very good line over the head.
Yes, center of gravity perfectly established there as Victor Petru, 21-year-old for the Greek team, comes onto the stage. There's 0.62 of a kilo separating the men in terms of body weight, and that may become well important before the night is over. He's lifted more than this in training, of course, but this is when it really matters. Well, I thought for a moment he was going to lose the control he established, but at the end of the day...
Yes, first lift just pulled on the weight, seemed to have a mental problem, but this time going through with it, waiting at the bottom until his balance was absolutely right, and then standing for a good lift. And again from the overhead, just staying in that bottom position, not standing until he was happy.
152.5 kilos to equal his own junior world record, and the chance now to improve on that figure. The senior world record for the snatch, 170 kilos. That's held by Ruslan Savchenko, who's in tonight's competition. He's the European champion and the world silver medalist, and a very timely appearance by him at 155 kilos. Quite interesting, he lifted 170 in Melbourne, so this is well within his ability. In the Europeans, he lifted 160, and perhaps, well, as you can see, there are a few changes going on. Savchenko is now going to wait probably for 157.5. Yes. And the next man we'll see is Leonid Lobachov for Belarus.
Yes, didn't really expect Savchenko to come in at 155. Has a personal best of 170 on the snatch.
But the important thing is that all these lifters have to enter their opening weight before the competition starts, so it's better to err on the side of being conservative and enter a lower weight, which gives you the opportunity to go up, because once the weight is passed, you don't have that opportunity. So Lobaczov also wants to pass 155, and so the next man is asked, and that's Andrzej Kozłowski of Poland. And it looks as if he is definitely going to come in. Kozłowski, 26 years of age, fourth in the Barcelona Olympics. He lifted 160 kilos there, but of course it wasn't the 70 kilo class there, it was the 75, but very little difference in this weight category in that sense. Actually, that was quite a tactical competition, the one in which he competed in. He finished fourth, as I said, but he actually competed in the B group, probably to make sure that he didn't have any pressure around him at the time. But Kozłowski's got a little bit more pressure now, having failed his first lift at 155. Now there's Pablo Lara from Cuba, 26 years of age. Lara, well, there are people who think tonight he might be lifting 372 kilos, perhaps even a bit more than that. Well, Stoyanov looks as if he's going to put the bar up to 155. Or what is going to happen here? Well, out of time. Stoyanov has lifted 152 and a half, so the next man should be Victor Mitru of Greece. It's second in the European Championships, Mitru, in the jerk, and fourth overall. And the clock once again stopped for adjustments. And there's quite a lot of switching about one way or another in these early stages already, David.
Well, that's right. 76 kilo class, always a very close competition. Often decided on body weight. So I would think in the warm-up room the coaches will be looking at the board, looking at the body weights, and every 2.5 kilos will count in this competition.
Yes, traditionally a very sharp fight between all of these competitors, but there's an awful lot of tactics going on in the early stages, perhaps between the men who won't necessarily figure in the final fight for gold, silver and bronze. Remember, we've still to see Oras Durdiev, the man from Turkmenistan who is the world champion, Savchenko, the European champion and the world record holder in the snatch, as well as the overall total, and also Savastiev. So methinks a little confusion here, David.
Yes, nobody seems to want to come out on 155 kilos.
Well, we thought Mitru was going to do just that, but maybe he's going to opt for the 5 kilo lift up. The host nation, well, their best hope, I suppose, would be So quite a bit of confusion now backstage about who wants to do what, and this competition has temporarily ground to a halt whilst the members of the jury are brought into play to decide what on earth has gone on. Now, I wonder whether it was a confusion with Stoyanov, who was, as it were, gonged out from his second lift at 155.
Yes, I think perhaps the coaches will be arguing for another attempt.
And this is exactly what you do not need as a lifter. It's a lot of wasted energy. It's difficult enough to concentrate and focus on what you have to do without having confusion. So 2 minutes go on the clock now. The weight is still at 155, and we think it might well be Andrzej Kozłowski for Poland who's going to come out. But I wouldn't like to promise that just at this moment. It's changing by the second. The world champion, the man from Turkmenistan, before these championships reckoned that he'd need to lift about 375, 377 to keep his title. So here's Kozłowski. This his second lift, so he's taken a, in fact, of course he's trying to lift it for the first time. The first time correctly, I should say. The first lift was a failure. That time, much better.
Well, missed it the first time, unable to pull the weight high enough and lock out with the right arm. But this time, even after all the confusion and the long wait, comes in, corrects the mistake made on the previous attempt. Now has 155 on the board and still one attempt remaining.
Yes, gets the bar nicely above his head there, and the feet well underneath the bar. And the first appearance now, 157.5 kilos of Pablo Lara from Cuba. Cubans weren't in the World Championships last year in Melbourne. Lots of reasons for that, not least of all it's an expensive journey for them to go, and anybody who knows about the Cuban economy knows that that would have been a difficult test for them. But that is not a difficult test for Mr. Lara. Straight over the head. And I wonder whether he can get 165 in the snatch. Very possible. That would still leave him short of the world record though, but it would be a good start. Now in at 157.5 is Germany's Ingo Steinhöfel, and this is quite some weight, because what he's attempting to do is to break the German record at his opening weight. So he must, I guess, David, feel quite confident.
Yes, a very steady lifter. Has lifted more than this in the past in the lower 75 kilo division. And just look at that. Well, I don't think I've ever seen him look any stronger.
He looks in terrific form tonight. Well, that was really excellent. Steinhöfel, who collected an Olympic silver medal when he represented the German Democratic Republic in the Olympic Games in 1988. He was fifth in Barcelona. But looking as if he might well be back to something like his best, and he's going to have to be to deal with lifters like this man, Roman Sevastiev. 25 from the Ukraine, European bronze medalist, fifth in the world. And over 160 should be easy for him to achieve. Technique rather than strength there, deserting him.
Well, unusual for him to have problems with 157.5 as a personal best of 170. And really doesn't pull it in the right line.
Well, it's not only the lifters, the coaches are prowling around their charges there. A lot of mental arithmetic going on. And the world champion still to lift. Onto the stage for Belarus. This is Leonid Lobachov. First lift, 157.5. Not too much time left, so he needs to get on with it. Well, it's okay in the end, but it very nearly went away, didn't it?
That's right, no problem getting the weight overhead, but I feel that he was slightly rushed, didn't quite put it in the right place, but manages to stay in that bottom position.
So here comes the man for Armenia. This is Ojan Basajian. 157.5 kilos. He has got a good lift on the board. That was at 152.5, but this is a 5 kilo increase. Good picture of the grip there being applied. Just had the feeling there that it might have been a bit beyond him.
Yes, just looking at the slow motion, never really getting the bar high enough. And again, from the overhead, on his third attempt, he'll really need to be thinking about height.
Stoyanov, good at 152, failed at 155, last attempt. Bulgaria having championships of mixed fortunes. That's really the best you could say. So far in the men's division, it's certainly Turkey, host country, who've taken most of the honours. Pashalov there, one shining light. Got to be.
Yes, looked very heavy from the floor. Just failing to lock out with the left arm.
Now for the Ukraine. Sevastev. Two Ukrainian lifters in this competition, so the squad really have high hopes. There's only 10 per country allowed. You can allocate them as you will in each category. So to put two in here is putting a lot of their power in this particular category.
Well, you begin to wonder, why didn't you do that on the first attempt? Good tight back, hips coming towards the bar, catches it in an almost perfect position and stands.
Well, he's got one more chance to improve on that. 162.5 is what he's been lifting recently, Roman Sevastev, so we'll have to see whether he can equal that by taking an extra 5 kilos. Meanwhile, here's the youngster, the 21-year-old Greek, with a 5 kilo increase to 157.5. This, of course, for a new junior world record.
Yes, a big increase, David.
Maybe 2.5 kilos too much. As it is, he's left with 152.5. Ojan Basegian for Armenia back onto the stage. Third attempt at 157.5. And remember, there are plenty of men who've still some work to do. Lara, Steinhoffel have only taken one lift. The world champion hasn't even appeared yet. That was nicely controlled. And he gets his 157.5. And as you mentioned earlier, the body weight is going to be important to separate positions here. But remember, these men also looking for a total weight. As Stoyanov. But he can't get it.
Yes, again, failing to lock out the left arm. Just not quite able to pull it high enough.
So now Ruslan Savchenko for his first lift. The European champion. This would equal the weight that he lifted earlier this year in those championships. Although in Melbourne, when he took the silver medal overall, he lifted 170. But he shares the first spot in the world rankings coming into these championships with Sevastiev. So the two Ukrainians, on paper at least, lead the world. But paper and championships, two very different things. Big, wide grip. You can see how close his hands are to the weights. Very deep. Looks as if he was going to sit, but finally gave best. I think he can correct that.
Yes, definitely not a problem with the strength, but in that bottom position, he almost caught it in a fairly high squat, catches it, then goes lower, relaxes. And of course, if you relax with these kind of weights, they don't stay overhead for long.
The world champion, Alti Orazduriev of Turkmenistan, 25 years of age, his opening lift. Well,
similar problem to his teammate. Pulls it high enough and then relaxes in the bottom position.
So, two failures at 160 for two of the favourites, which may give encouragement to the Cuban, Lara, to the German Steinhoffel, and indeed to Sevastiev, the teammate of Savchenko from the Ukraine, because they've all got 157.5 on the bar.
Yes, Orazduriev at the Olympic Games Saw him in the training hall, looked very strong, but didn't actually start in the competition.
Yes, he was. He lost the place to another of the lifters, and I think it was Kesapu.
It was Kesapu.
Who went on to actually win the medal. So I suppose you can say the team management actually got it wrong, got it right on that day. Yes, Fedor Kesapu. I have to reiterate that, of course, in the '92 Olympics, a lot of these lifters were all under the one banner of the Équipe Unifiée, or the Commonwealth of Independent States, whichever you like to describe it by. But now the former, or the Soviet Union, broken up into so many of the new republics, that the weightlifting scene is quite competitive, and one or two men who probably wouldn't have made the Soviet team now actually having a chance to compete on the world stage. Well, Savchenko pretty annoyed with himself there, and so he should be.
Yes, just doesn't seem to be able to pull the bar high enough. Which is unusual, because he has a personal best of 170.
Now, the world champion under the same sort of pressure. Much better.
Yes, a much better lift for Ozduviev, but I have to say that he's looked much solider in other competitions.
Now, Kozlowski. Well, the last time we saw him, he was lifting 155. Now he's gone to 160. So this is quite a big increase. Could really be a lift to nothing. Yes, I think he went for that big weight there in the hope he might just be able to pull it off. As it is, he'll have to settle for 155.
Yes, really not able to get enough height on the bar to fix overhead.
Now, Savchenko. If he lifts this, he goes on with a chance of the total. If he fails, well, this will be the first big surprise of the evening. Thumb round, fingers over, got to get the lock right. Was he going to breathe a sigh of relief now? Savchenko gets 160, but it's left him some kilos short of what he would have wanted.
That's right, as we said earlier, personal best of 170. So, although he's now got a lift on the board, it's 10 kilos less than his personal best. And I wonder how that's going to affect him in the runnings in the total.
Well, I think what's going to happen is that a lot of people are going to take encouragement from that. And this will be one man who will do just that, because here's Lara from Cuba, who's put the bar up to 162.5. Which means that Steinhoffel's going to at least try this weight. So is the world champion. Mr. Lara looking good again. Skips off the stage, no problem there at all.
Yes, I think interesting to remember that Lara's strong lift is the clean and jerk.
Now, Ingo Steinhöfel, same weight. Yet another, of course, German record, if he pulls this off. Very good. He knew as soon as he got it over his head that he was there. No problem pulling it up.
Yes, Steinhöfel very strong in the second phase of the lift. And again from the overhead, really does drive those hips into the bar.
Well, the 27-year-old who lives in Chemnitz, formerly Karl-Marxstadt, looking on top form tonight. Needs to be. Now Lobachov for Belarus. So we've got two clear at 162.5, the world champion, and Savchenko at 160. And another man's going to get 162.5.
Well, he was rushed a bit on his first attempt. Made sure he had plenty of time for his second. And pulls the bar in a perfect line and stands for a second success with 162.5.
Now the world record's 170, so I don't really see that going now, because really no one's got enough lifts left unless someone's going to be incredibly brave and go for at least 7.5 or 10 kilos to really write the record, rewrite the record book. So this is all about winning the gold medal at this moment. Well, absolutely no problems there for Sevastiev, who gets 162.5 to complete his 3 lifts. Now, just interesting, he's lighter than Lara, he's lighter than Steinhöfel by 0.14 of a kilo. They're both on 75.84. So just at this moment, Sevastiev has the call. But not perhaps for very long, because the bar up to 165 for the world champion, who is lighter, but his only good lift to date, the second effort at 160. So if he wants to go to the top of the table, he's got to achieve this lift. And then there are still 2 men with lifts to come, 3 in fact. And Oraz Dudiev of Turkmenistan.
Yes, again, looking at the slow motion, really doesn't seem to be able to get enough height on the bar. And as I said earlier, not looking the best I've seen him.
No, but he's got a chance to retrieve things in the clean and jerk, but it just puts that much more pressure on him. So, are we going to see a Cuban gold medal? The bar up to 165. What a pity. He just lost it over the back there.
That's right. pulled it high enough, so not lacking strength. Again, from the overhead, just dips the head through and back the weight goes.
Yes, the balance lost, the centre of gravity lost. But here comes Germany's man, Steinhoffel. Now to take the lead because of the body weight situation, he needs to lift this. Plenty of time. Tell you what, David, if he cracks this one as he did the second lift, there'll be no problem with it at all.
Well, he's actually lifted this before in the 75 kilo class, so not beyond him.
That's there. That is a brilliant set of lifts. And he even rejoices with it over his head.
Well, I don't think anybody expected Steinhoffel to win the gold, perhaps not even himself. But there it is, 165 kilos.
Well, maybe he didn't expect to win the gold, but he must have known he was in good form to start off with that German record weight of 157.5. But those are three very impressive lifts. Now, the situation now is that it's 165 for this man of Belarus, Leonid Lobachov. Now, Lobachov, 75.78 kilos. Steinhoffel, 75.84. So Lobachov, who you're looking at now, is the only man who can deny the German, because if he lifts it, he's the lighter man and he'll take the gold. The gold to Germany and Ingo Steinhoffel. Lobachov just losing it in the bottom position, didn't have the strength to establish and then complete the second phase. And Germany get their first gold medal of these 66th Men's World Weightlifting Championships. Well, what a opening snatch competition we've just seen. Full of tactics at the beginning, a lot of nervousness, and one or two people losing crucial lifts.
Yeah, it's nice to see Steinhoffel back on the form that he showed in the Olympic Games in 1988.
So, a really good start to the evening competition. Ingo Steinhoffel takes the gold medal. We'll give you confirmation of silver and bronze when the body weights are checked by the jury. For the moment, though, we'll pause to catch our breath, and then we'll be back with the clean and jerk and some highlights as well for you from the women's competitions earlier today. Kilo lead, but I think he's going to need that.
Yes, definitely. The strength of Pablo Lara in the clean and jerk, well known.
Ojan Bazezian for Armenia for his first clean and jerk. Lifted 157.5 in the snatch. Hands much closer together, nice clean. Over the head, the split brings the left leg forward, and that's a good opener for him. 190 kilos.
And just looking at the slow motion, pulls the bar very high, catches it nice and high on the chest. Dips, brings the feet forward into almost a perfect position, and certainly has no problem with 190.
And this the world record held by Lara. More of that later. Now here's the Bulgarian, Stoyanov. Well, that'll have given him a lot of confidence, having got this first lift in.
Yes, the weight's looking very heavy off the floor in the snatch, but doesn't seem to have any problem with 190 kilos. Slams it overhead. And there again on the overhead.
Centered it quite nicely, but now this is Kozlowski, Andrei Kozlowski. Tried 160, ended up with 155 in the snatch. Now trying 190. Well, he's certainly lifted this sort of weight before. So the first lift's going in with not too much fuss.
Yes, obviously 190 a weight that's well within him.
I think the weight will be going up. In fact, it is going up to 192.5 kilos. The man who already has one gold medal in his pocket. Now, what do the judges make of that? Were the arms to their satisfaction? They were. And that assures Ingo of a total, as well as a place in the clean and jerk. But at the moment, we're 12.5 kilos off that world record weight. That's probably a bit too much to expect this talented German lifter to achieve, but remember, he does have a couple of kilos advantage over his closest rivals after the snatch, and 5 kilos advantage over the world champion. Still on 192.5 kilos. Savchenko. Well, he had a disastrous start to the snatch. He missed the first two. And the world snatch champion of 1993 saw his title disappear to Germany's Ingo Steinhoffel. but he's not far off the world record. He's certainly capable of lifting 200, although achieving this lift, David, it wasn't totally convincing that he's going to go very far.
No, I would think that in the back of his mind at the moment will be the fact that he's 10 kilos adrift in the snatch. So really got a lot to do on the clean and jerk. And not his best lift.
Lobachev, the bronze medalist in the snatch. He, like Steinhoffel, will be feeling perhaps a little bit more relaxed than one or two, having already achieved a medal and lifted well. Didn't miss a lift in the snatch. Times it to almost perfection, just 6 seconds remaining as he lifted the bar up. Has to get it above his knees, otherwise he'll be buzzed out.
From the overhead, looks very confident on the clean and jerk.
First lift for Victor Mitru. Bar up, as you can see, just behind him to 195. Mitru, I suppose one would have to say, didn't really progress much in the snatch. I wonder whether this might be more to his liking. Mitru lifted 192.5 in the Europeans. Finished 4th. But did get the silver medal in that particular competition this year in the jerk. Well, it was there an awful long time.
Yes, a very heavy opening poundage, was struggling all the way through that movement. Catches the clean in a bad position with the elbows low, doesn't catch the bounce, then has to rise from a dead position. Now, feeling tired from that hard clean, has to try and compose himself. Doesn't seem to have a lot of energy left for the jerk.
And the longer the bar sits there, the harder it is. .195 also for the man from the Ukraine, Roman Sevastiev. The silver medalist in the snatch this evening. And if Savchenko is struggling, maybe this is the man who will fly the flag for the Ukraine ultimately tonight. Once again, the clean was really quite straightforwardly executed, but it's the second phase where the problems lie.
Yes, very strong clean, followed by what looked up to there to be a good jerk. But again, leaving the hips behind, not getting underneath the bar. And with these kind of weights, very difficult to hold if you're not in the right position.
Basesian for Armenia. Only 24. Also one of the heavier men tonight in this particular category of 76 kilos. Oh, he fought for that. Good to see the applause. We've had some unfriendly welcomes for the Armenians by 2-1. So let's see what one judge spotted.
Yes, I think if we concentrate on the left arm, just a slight press out, but he fought it all the way.
And gets the nod. Well, Stoyanov never really got that bar moving.
No, seems to be limping off the platform. I wonder if he's sustained an injury in the warm-up room. Looking at him on the overhead, pulls the weight onto the shoulders, but doesn't really want to even attempt to stand up with that.
Kozłowski for Poland. Second lift, plenty of time, 195, 5 kilo increase. Again, another fighter and another man to get his reward, I would think. Yes, indeed. So he has one more lift. Chance to hit the 200 kilo mark.
Yes, a hard lift, but all the positions very good. And just manages to hold on.
Mitru for Greece now. Hasn't recorded a lift in the clean and jerk. Just one success in the snatch at 152.5. But worth remembering, he's only 21. He's moving up from the junior ranks. And this is, as we've said before, grown-ups sport at this level.
Yes, the last attempt on 195, the weight looking very, very heavy. Young and ambitious.
And he's not having a happy time out there.
No, perhaps the coach is putting him in at too much, or perhaps asking for too much weight himself. Obviously wants to be in the medals.
Well, Mitru is going to have to try that weight again. He can't go down. He can only go up or stay on it. So as he considers that decision, Sevastiev comes in to try for 195 a second time. Still, of course, Oraz Dudiev to come in. He hasn't lifted. Neither has Lara of Cuba. Steinhoffel might be playing a very sensible game. He's got one on the board and is waiting. Yes, that's a lot more like it. But of course, a missed lift is a missed opportunity in every sense of the word, because it now means that he has to go in his last lift for broke, really, if he wants to try and go for gold, or even for a medal. Stoyanov, the late replacement for Bulgaria. Not to be, and 190 is what he will have to settle for.
Well, Stoyanov not really convinced himself that he's capable of lifting 195 and just pulls on the weight and lets it go.
So, Mitru. Final attempt, very important. If he lifts it, he not only gets 195, but he'll get a total, which will give him a world ranking. If he misses, again, the slow move up. Can't hang about here too long.
And just started with too much weight. 195, just too heavy. A very hard clean. Didn't catch it in a good position. Struggles to stand. And really, after a clean like that, the jerk is just too much to ask for. So he goes out.
Yes, it's quite interesting because he originally entered tonight a first weight of 190 and he changed that to 195. And having seen this and also having seen the problems he had on the snatch, surely he and his coaches should have revised this before they started to at least 192.5.
Yes, well, this A class is a very close competition and everybody wants a medal.
But I just think one lift early on would have given him a bit of confidence. Now, the defending champion, 202.5 the kilos that Alti Oratstudiev lifted in Melbourne last year. The poundish which helped him to the title.
He seems to be having all sorts of problems.
And I think he's decided that he's got to go for broke here. Remember the world record of Lara's. The Cuban is 205.
Yes, begin to wonder though if Oratstudiev is suffering from some kind of an injury.
Well, this man isn't. Now, he's full of confidence. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. There's just about every German weightlifting fan here, and I suspect back in Germany, watching the TVs, crossing their fingers for this man, because this could be an extremely important lift if he gets it. Good clean. Now, is that just a little bit too much?
Well, he's got one attempt left, so clean, very strong.
Bar position, very good.
Well, not quite chucking it high enough, but he's got another go.
Might just be within his compass, but I don't think he'd be advised to, although who are we to advise him to put any more weight on the bar? He could do that. He could miss this out and go to a higher weight, but we shall see. Now, for Armenia, Ojan Basesian. Two good lifts so far in the clean and jerk. Started at 190, 195, now 197.5. So it's getting very tough now. Lobachev, 197.5.
Very fast on the clean. And just not quite the right positioning on the jerk, but I feel that strength isn't the problem.
Now, my apologies to Mr. Barsigian as the crowd welcome him onto the platform. I'd given him the lift that in fact was taken by Ruslan Savchenko. So here, having lifted successfully 190 and 195, is Ojan Barsigian for his third and final lift. 197.5 kilos. This would be very good if he can complete this set. Well, that's what he thinks about it anyway. And it really is getting tough out there now.
Yes, the clean again, very strong. But the jerk just slightly forward. Yes, really needs to push the hips under the bar. And there's the clean again. And we watch that jerk from the front, chucks it forward, leaves the hips behind, and really not in a position to hold that weight.
So now we have an interesting situation. Both Ukrainians have used up 2 of their lifts. The world champion, Oraz Dudiev, 197.5. He tried that. That didn't work for him either. So the bar stays on 197.5 for Roman Sevastiev. Remember, he's got a silver medal in the snatch. But if he's looking for a total, then he certainly needs this. A total, I should say, that would put him on the podium for the overall championship.
And just doesn't have the strength to stand up from that bottom position. Watch on the slow motion, pulls in, tries to stand, but the leg's just not strong enough.
So 195 is the best you can hope for. Now Steinhoffel, he wasn't a million miles away from picking this up at his first attempt. And I emphasize again, he's got 5 kilos advantage over the defending world champion and 2.5 over the rest of the field. Or at least his closest pursuers. Good clean.
Really needs to get the height on this jerk, which he does.
Yes. Terrific. Well, we've seen a few Turkish celebrations on the stage, but none more exuberant than that. And he gets a 197.5.
And this time, making no mistake, the dip, chuck to arm's length, and there it is, a successful third attempt on 197.5. So interesting situation now with Pablo Lara needing 200 kilos. He snatched 2.5 less, weighed in at exactly the same body weight, but because he was first in the draw, only needs to equal Steinhoffel to win.
362.5 kilos is the total that Ingo Steinhoffel has recorded, but still Lara to appear. Meanwhile, this is Lobachov for his third and final lift. Didn't manage to pick up 197.5 last time. And just a little bit too much for the 28-year-old Belarus lifter.
And again, cleans it well, very fast lifter. Dips and just isn't able to chuck the bar high enough. And I think if we look from the overhead, we'll see that as he chucks the bar over the head, he actually leans away from it. Yeah, leans away and loses in front. Really needed to get the head further forward and the hips more underneath the bar.
So here is Pablo Lara, 26 years of age, from Cuba, with 200 kilos as his entry lift. So just to reinforce that he will win the overall total, possibly, because there's still Oraz Dudiev around. But at least he will surpass the total of Steinhoffel if he can do this successfully. Which he can.
Well, Pablo Lara, renowned for his strength in the clean and jerk, and looking at his first attempt on 200, I think we can see why.
Well, he is the world record holder at 205 kilos. That record set in Puerto Rico on the 25th of November last year, so almost exactly a year ago. It was after the World Championships, which he did not attend. So I think he's going to be after his own world record before this evening is over. So 200 proving too much for Kozlowski of Poland.
Yes, pulled it off the floor, realised just how heavy it was, and decided that 200 wasn't going to be the weight that he succeeded with today.
Savchenko now. Now this is a big lift for him. He's got a good one at 192.5. He failed at 197.5. So this is really a big question he's asking of himself. Savchenko, who is lighter than Lara. So this to take the lead in the clean and jerk. Good clean. And the pressure's on.
Well,
Ruslan Savchenko, the world snatch champion, who made a bit of a mess of the snatch tonight, trying to retrieve the situation. But his lifting is over. All he can do is watch and wait. He's got a total of 360, which puts him below Steinhoffel of Germany. So at the moment, it's the Cuban in gold, the German in silver. 202.5 will emphasize Lara's grip on this clean and jerk championship, but still, I remind you, Oraz Durdiev has 2 lifts to go. But I'm not sure that it'll necessarily take them with Lara in this sort of form.
well, just watching the slow motion, you can just see what a specialist Lara is on the clean and jerk. A very strong man, but also a very good technician.
So he's got one more lift after this. And Lara could well go for the world record on his next lift. 205 kilos, well within his compass now. That's perfectly clear. Well, the German camp absolutely delighted, as the Cuban camp will be if their man can lift this, because you're looking at the new world record weight. There's Pablo's record sitting right in the middle of the screen there. 205.5. The half won't count in the overall total, but 205 to go with 162.5, which would give him 367.5, which would still leave him 2.5 short of equaling the world record. So it doesn't look to me, David, as if Oraz Durdiev is going to come out again. I think the defending world champion has accepted it.
That's right, never really looked good in the snatches, looked very weak in the clean and jerk. Perhaps, as we said earlier, perhaps suffering from some kind of an injury.
Well, this is his third and last lift. He's not going to break or take a share of the overall world record, but he could increase his own clean and jerk world record. Not tonight, not today, but he has got the consolation of winning the clean and jerk to give Cuba their first gold medal in these World Championships.
And of course, also winning the overall
checking on this, 202.5 is weight for the clean and jerk, plus 162.5 gives him a total of 363, which by half a kilo, in fact 365 I should say, by 2.5 kilos gives him the gold medal for the overall championship. So the champion of the snatch is Ingo Steinhoffel for Germany. The champion of the clean and jerk is Pablo Lara of Cuba, and the overall title also goes to the Cuban. Well, Lara lived up to reputation, more or less. Steinhoffel exceeded our hopes, I think. We thought he would do well, but he's done better than we imagined he might. And I have to say that Ruslan Savchenko, Alti Orazdurdiev and Roman Sevastiev, three of the favourites before tonight, David, well, they performed below their ability.
That's right, especially Savchenko did rather well on the clean and jerk with a 200, which equaled his best. But that 10 kilo adrift on the snatch, only managing 160, really did cost him the World Championships.
Yes, 370 would have given him victory, but if only. So the podium, as you can see, being prepared for the medal presentations. We'll take a break once again, and then we'll be back for those and the highlights of this afternoon's women's clean and jerk competition.